Okay, everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today, we have an extremely exciting debut for you guys from one of my personal favorite brands, Monta. Now, a little bit about them. They were founded back in 2015. They are Swiss-made in origin, although they are USA-based and managed. Essentially, they're a microbrand startup with their eye on that entry-level luxury market. And when I say luxury, I mean luxury. This is not just in terms of it being an expensive watch or a limited watch, or with some, crazy niche gimmick that makes it, on par with other luxury products. This thing, just the level of execution, the build, the fit, the finish, pretty much is really where you move into that luxury realm. And essentially for me, when I think about luxury versus premium, premium is just something that's really well executed. It can be perfectly executed at that. Luxury is when you go beyond perfection, when you go beyond well done. Even if you got everything done correctly, that could still be a premium product, but when it's luxury, it's when you go beyond what you needed to do. And for me, that's really what Monta does, and that's real part of their ethos and their brand, and just kind of going above and beyond and taking it a step further from what you've typically seen, especially within this price range. But even just within this independent watch brand genre. Now, this type of watch, if I was to categorize it, would be an everyday watch. Some key common characteristics and design language when you're looking for something you can wear every day. Of course, you're really going to want that versatile blend of sporty and dressy attributes, which I think this particular watch, the Monta Noble, really nails. I mean, this to me, when I look at it, is just the definition of an everyday luxury timepiece. I've been, and many have been, kind of asking of this recipe for quite a while from various brands, and for me, Monta was able to somehow deliver on it with something very, very special. I think for a while, people have kind of said, okay, well, what if you did this with the Triumph, or did these tweaks to the Atlas, and, the fruits of some of those conversations are really born here with the Monta Noble. This is their opaline silver, which is visually renders as a white dial, although it is technically a silver dial. This thing is absolutely excellent, and I'm really, really looking forward to sharing it with you guys because it's truly something special, and not special in that it's crazy and has any weird kicks going on. It's just a combination and amalgamation of so many little features that come together to really take this thing beyond the typical threshold you would think of for a younger micro brand. So with that said, let's zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, wow, what a beauty. As you can see, absolutely gorgeous, super well balanced, love the aesthetic. Obviously the fit and finish from that standpoint is just what you'd expect from a Monta product, where they've really made a name for themselves in terms of their fit and finish and just overall quality of materials there. So really absolutely gorgeous. Of course, the Monta Noble, this being a new model available in two dial options, one with a degraded blue dial, and then this is being the opaline silver. These are actually available for pre-order right now for $1,600, which might sound like a lot. Somebody might be saying, oh, well, without a 20 to 40 to 50 year old history, why would anybody spend that much on a watch? Well, let's be realistic, guys. When you have production of this level, it's not cheap, all right? It's a small company, small brand. There's pretty much just 3 employees, the 2 founders, and a watchmaker. So those are 3 salaries they have to pay, and they're buying these in very small batches. This isn't the Swatch Group. This isn't Seiko. They're not making editions and batches of about by the thousand or by any means, right? These are done, in 100, 200 batches, and then you have a couple of different flavors as far as the variation goes. But generally, they're smaller batch, they're more expensive, everything's Swiss made. Literally down to the handset. So there's so much that goes into here where they went and really sourced the most premium elements to come together for this watch. There's not like when they came out and they started putting these things together, there was never a part where they were like, hey, let's find where we could save the most money. It was always, let's find the best quality, and then let's, that we'll figure out the price after that. So that's just something, a little bit of background for those of you that might get a little bit of a sticker shock. For me, honestly, remember, you have to compare apples to apples. This is the actual price directly from the manufacturer. So if you're going to come on and get in the comments and talk about, oh, but you could buy a used Aquaterra for this much. Well, this isn't a used watch. This is a new watch. Or, hey, you can go on Joma Shop and get this. You can get this Oris for this much. And it's just like, well, that's Joma Shop. That's a gray market. And it's not covered by the manufacturer. This is. So there's a much bigger difference, guys. Yes, there are other ways to spend your money, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to show you a watch that if you're interested in and you like, maybe you're going to be able to see some of the things you like, and maybe there's going to be some things you don't necessarily like about it, but it's really independent of the price. So as far as dimensions go, we have that perfect 38.5 millimeter diameter. We have 9.7 millimeters thick, and then 47 millimeters lug to lug, which is absolutely great, and you'll see that on the wrist. The sapphire crystal on here is flat with 7 layers of inner AR coating, so as you can see, it really negotiates reflections quite well, even in the studio. It's where you can't avoid a reflection, you can still really take a look, and you can almost reach right down into that dial, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, as far as the bezel goes, it is actually fixed and mirror polished, which is a change from some of the other models within Monta's lineup, as you can see. And I think the highly polished bezel really set the watch off and make it different. It gives it a different vibe than their more field and tool watch oriented watches. This definitely feels a little bit dressier, but still quite an everyday piece because of the amount of brushing, of course, all over the case, all over the bracelet. It's definitely a sports watch at heart, but it just happens to have just glorious aesthetics and a completely well-balanced dial there with amazing spacing and great symmetry. Now, the crown is what you'd expect and what you have seen from Monta, signed screw-down crown, which offers the additional water resistance here at 150 meters or 500 feet of water resistance, which is absolutely outstanding for something you're going to try to wear every day. On the back here, you will see a very nice, also a very nice clasp, but let's focus a little bit on the movement here. As you can see, it's an SW300 from Sellita. On Monta's website, you'll probably have noticed the last couple of months they did change their verbiage to, instead of saying Sellita SW300, it says Monta Caliber M22. And the reason for that is not that they're trying to say that they have their own in-house caliber. It's really just to give them the flexibility of depending on what's available. If they can get ETA 2892s, then they'll put those in there. If they have availability for SW300s, then they'll put those in there. It's not really meant in any way to add any confusion or anything from that standpoint. It's really to give them the flexibility to continue to, at a decent rate, put out more of these excellent watches. Now, of course, this movement, a little bit about it, it has a 4 hertz sweep, which is 8 ticks per second, which is a really nice, pretty standard beat count, not quite high beat, not quite low beat. It has a 42-hour power reserve. These are actually regulated within plus or minus 5 seconds a day. They do not advertise that as much anymore, just because there's so many different you know, variances that can be there after the watch ships, that you know, they basically didn't want to spend too much time nitpicking over somebody saying, hey, well, I'm 2 seconds outside of that or a second out of that variation, and kind of seeing it, instead of it being a guarantee, it's more just like you would get from many other brands where they do some regulation, and they get it to with a nice tolerance, and it's kind of up to you at that point how well you treat the watch, how well it's going to continue to keep time, right? But if you do have any serious issues, you can always, of course, hit them up. And now with a full-time watchmaker on hand, they do have, of course, serviceability options, which is very nice. The dial itself is quite gorgeous. As you can see, it's that semi-matte white dial, beautiful fully applied indices. You have that date at 6 o'clock that's beautifully framed. You have those polished hands there, which are really nice, and actually a new addition to the lineup, which much of this watch actually is. And they are rhodium plated. They are just done to such a high level. And then the lume inside is BGW9 Swiss Super Luminova. One thing you'll also notice as you look at the hands, they actually do come out, and they kind of have a little bit of a counterbalance on each one, which just fills the dial a little bit nicer and adds a little bit of dimension, as well as they have a new seconds hand as well. And you'll also notice the tips on the hands actually tie in beautifully with the design aesthetic of these quite lovely indices, which really sing in the metal. In pictures you can't really tell, but man, when you see these in person, the contours, the shape there, the way they capture the light is really something to behold. It's very special, and I like the more balanced aesthetic they went with here, as far as the lengths and everything. Of course, you do have that dual marker at the 12 o'clock for quick orientation, but as far as the rest of the indices go, it's a very even and clean affair. Also, you'll notice, if you're a fan of Monta, that they have updated the logo, the size, the font, just made it a bit more refined, which I can definitely appreciate, as well as the lines of text down here. So it really just offers a more classic aesthetic, and it's very clean and timeless, versus the, you know, bit sportier dial layout on some of its other models. Now, as far as the bracelet goes, this is one thing that Monta is really known for, because essentially each model has the same bracelet. There is a variation with the clasp, where on the divers watches the clasp is a little bit longer, but on the non-divers they all have this shorter clasp. But man, this thing is absolutely excellent. It's actually better than I remember. Just to kind of give you a little idea of how good this bracelet is. One, right, everybody does the thing where they fold this and bend it and they stack them, right, and which is great. They're really articulated. There's not a lot of jingle jangle going on. Obviously everything is milled, nothing's off the shelf. They have this cool Monta puck system that locks it in, all right, which is great. You have that nice high polished bevel, absolutely excellent. And then now you actually with all models, you're getting this beautiful clasp option that has a toolless micro adjustment system. So you can go out if it gets a little hot, boom. And then also, as you'll see, we have two half links there, which really help as far as sizing. And one thing you'll also notice, which a lot of people don't talk about, is look at that there. That is a ceramic detent ball. That is a sign of absolute quality. No expenses spared, guys. Look at that, absolutely gorgeous, which helps with the action on there, which makes it absolutely flawless. This of course is a review model, pre-production, but this is pretty close to essentially what the actual production unit will look like. This is basically just a small batch essentially, versus the larger batch that the production units are going to come out of, which honestly, after spending some time with this piece, I'm definitely going to be putting in a pre-order. So the thing I wanted to mention about the bracelet that's just, to me, was a little bit bonkers. They've just improved it, and I mean, I didn't think that they did, but they've definitely stepped up their game. And honestly, another part of it is that there's been more and more smaller, cheaper watches that are out there that have been moving on to using screw link connectors. Well, the thing about that is there's levels to this game, and Monta just seems to be at the absolute highest level. When I had to screw and unscrew these, I've never had so, like, the feeling of the tactile of turning and unscrewing and reinserting the screws while I was adjusting the bracelet. It felt damn near hydraulic. There was no grit or anything like that, which you'll find in cheaper watches. You'll find in more expensive watches general grit. I mean, a lot of the watches that I have on the show, I will actually, after I'm done sizing them, what I'll do is I'll actually have to run them under the sink to just clean off some of the carbon and some of the grittiness that's left over within the bracelet from the initial machining. Not the case here. This thing just was absolute butter, and I just couldn't be more impressed. So let's actually get this piece on wrist so I can show you guys how it wears. Okay guys, as you can see on my 7¼ inch wrist, this thing wears absolutely beautifully. Check that out. Look at how flat that lays. Just hugs the wrist, nice and thin. Look at the bevels, the bevel game from the case down to each link, guys. Each link with a beautifully refined micro bevel. No sharp edges anywhere. This thing just wears like an absolute dream. Look at the clasp there, nicely centered underneath my wrist. Non-obtrusive, just keeping the watch perfectly balanced, and just having it just taper and flow around the wrist is absolutely outstanding. This bracelet tapers down nicely from 20 millimeters down to that 18 millimeter, of course, down at the clasp. So really quite beautiful. Probably actually 16 at the link and then 18 at the clasp. So really, really nice from that standpoint. Was absolutely fantastic, guys. Of course, with the dial spacing, it's going to give you that nice visual impact, but at that 38.5 millimeter sizing, it's not going to overwhelm the wrist at all. It's going to have enough visual punch for larger wrists, but it's actually has a small enough footprint that it's going to fit on smaller wrists as well, which is something that I actually quite enjoy. And you can see some of the way the tones are captured. It's almost a pearlescent way that it plays with the light when you look at that nice rehaut there that's angled, and has, of course, cutouts for those beautiful indices there. So really nice. If you guys can see some of the heavy angles on that, really beautiful. So many different textures and facets, bevels. Oh man, just between the, look at how finely polished and brushed that is. Super uniform, guys. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous knockout. This is, man, this video is running long because of how many good things I have to say about this watch. So let's actually move into some Lume shots and get low light transition going for you guys and get into some closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights. As you can see, beautifully done BGW9, really lighting the way. And again, guys, this is that everyday watch. It's not a dress watch, you know, fully. It's not super overly sporty. It's not meant to do part-time duty as a diver or anything like that. But you want to go for a swim, get some water sports going, it's good to go. You get stuck in some rain, hey, you know, even if you get stuck doing the dishes, this thing is going to be absolutely fine, and a tank on your wrist in terms of water resistance. But so the beautiful thing is, because of the quality of that application, although these aren't huge indices, you can see the glow is quite profound. Very, very strong, and very evenly coated there. Everything matches beautifully, and a lot of that has to do with the depth and the thickness of the application, which is also quite uniform and nice. But one of the things I like to do and work into that, man, look at that cool blue BGW9 still coursing away, even in that kind of transitional lighting there is I like to get these low light transitions because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to be coming in and out of buildings, you know, walking underneath an overhang or two, or even just coming in and out of a vehicle, guys. So you are going to be in less than optimal lighting, and I like to show you guys really how I know there's a lot to look at, right? One, the Lume. Holy cow, it still looks outstanding. Number two, look at the brushing. Look at the light, how uniform it is going over the brushing on those links, on the ends of these, the end links, the way they flow into the case. That is outstanding. I mean, look at that. That's nuts. And then look at the dial. Look at the way the rehaut catches the light. Look at the shadow casts by those beautifully contoured indices. Now I can even get into some harsher lighting here, guys. This is going to keep out some of the washout that you'll see in the, you know, standard lighting. And you're going to be able to typically see imperfections and whatnot. But look at that. Even in the harsher lighting, that brush work is still immaculate. Look at the pop. Look at the bevel pop. Look at the bevel on that link. How just mirror-like that is. It just, the way it catches the light. That is HD. That is high definition, guys. You're getting ultra sharp transitions in between brushed and polished, and man, is it good. So all right, so on the wrist, guys, of course, classic, really perfect proportions, very comfortable and balanced wear. As far as model variations go, again, we do also have that blue de Gras dial, which is basically a blue sunray dial with a brighter center that transitions to darker tones out the outer edges of the dial. Now, as far as comparable models go, I mean, I hate to really compare anything cheaper to this watch, just because honestly, even cheaper or within the same price range, in terms of quality, it blows the doors off of them. So let's you know, try to make it an equal match, and let's compare it to, like, let's say a Tudor Black Bay 36, which go for, again, right, directly from Tudor, $2,950, or a Black Bay 41 at $3,050. So that's quite a bit more expensive than 1,600, and I'm sure the eventual retail price will probably be closer to 17, I guess, depending on how many years down the line from you watching this video, as of course there are typically annual increases as well. But you're comparing something executed at that level to this, because really, when in terms of quality and fit and finish, that's how high up the food chain you got to get a baby Rolex, essentially, to have something that will not pale in absolute comparison to this watch. And even my old Triumph, it's done a job of kind of really level setting when I put it next to other watches like my Zen 556s. I have two of those, and it's just, it blows them out of the water. It's just a whole different level of the game that they get into, and it's nothing against Zen, right? It's nothing against Oris either. When I put it next to my Pro Pilot, it's really just a matter, again, of transitioning from premium to absolute luxury. Just they're doing things they don't have to do, and they're doing them to such a high level. The average consumer wouldn't even notice them, right? So these incremental changes that they make, these little touches, these nuances, these ornate details, these are for the enthusiasts. This watch is made for the enthusiast market. It's not made for Joe Schmo, dads and grads gift, right? They're gonna buy, if they get this, they're gonna say, well, what is this? Why does it cost so much, right? They won't necessarily understand. They'll feel like, damn, this is a nice piece of eye candy, wrist candy, but generally there's going to be a lot of nuance that will be lost, right? And if you're watching this and you're not catching that nuance, and you're saying, hey, just buy Seiko Alpinist, a watch that I love, then it's just not the watch for you. But if you're seeing this and you're seeing all of those fine details crafted together in such a balanced package, then this could be something that will really, really give you some absolute pleasure on the wrist, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to buy things that you enjoy, and man, it's a pleasure to be talking and kind of ranting about how good this watch is with you guys, because I'm genuinely excited by it. This is something that I've wanted for a while, and in my personal conversations offline with Justin, you know, and the Monta team have been, hey, you know, what about this in a white dial with applied indices all the way around and this and that. And then of course it's not that simple, right? It's not plug and play. They take it and they create a whole new model. They adjust things here, they tighten things there, they give us a fresh dial, handset, things we didn't even ask for, and they create something above and beyond of what we were looking for. So, you know, my hat's off to the Monta team. Bottom line, guys, with the Rolex Oyster Perpetual 39 white dial being discontinued recently and skyrocketing in price, like literally I've seen some for like 10 grand now. That used to be like the affordable and attainable Rolex sports watch that was actually in stock at dealers. They're now absolutely through the roof because they changed the options to now 36 and 41. There's some smaller options, but essentially you don't get that sweet spot that this watch hits at the 38.5. So I mean, for me, the Monta Noble is just poised to fill that void in that perfect everyday luxury timepiece. And yeah, this is a luxurious piece. It's not hot horology by any means, you know, but every brand has to start somewhere, right? As much as there's going to be people in the comments that are going to say, no, well, you could have got this other watch for this much money, and then you could have flipped it and still had it be worth whatever. Guys, you know what? One thing to remember, at one point, people used to tell Tudor owners you should just buy a Rolex. You know, why not just buy a Rolex, save up a little bit more and buy a Rolex? And now look at where Tudor is, right? Every brand has a starting point, and man, the starting point and the trajectory for a brand like Monta has been extremely impressive. I mean, if these guys were around in the 50s and 60s, I feel like they would be a huge player, you know, and I think that's kind of part of their core ethos of recasting your timeline. These guys are starting at such a high level. It's very ambitious, and it's not the common, and that's why there's a lot of people that are going to be probably turned off by this watch, because it's not common to find a watch, you know, that starts at $1,600 from an independent company with no marketing budget and no brand ambassadors or anything like that, that is really just keying into a niche of people that say, hey, well, I'm a watch fan, I'm a watch collector, I'm a wristwatch enthusiast, and here are the things that I get enthusiastic about: fit, finish, quality, theme, execution. These are all things that I value to an extremely high level, and Monta takes the time to deliver on those things. They're not just looking and tracking the next big trend. They're out there setting them. So guys, with that said, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, definitely subscribe for more content just like this. Hopefully not this long, because man, I know I've been going on about this one, but literally I posted like one picture of this on Instagram and also in my community page of my channel, and you know, people have been asking this, like the first thing, hey, when's the review coming? I posted in a couple Facebook groups, hey, what, you reviewing that? I'm looking forward to it. So I just had to get this out for you guys. So it's a little probably unpolished compared to some of my other more concise videos, but you know what, there's a lot of good things here to say, so I'm glad I was able to share them with you. So again, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.